Hello! Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. That was super sweet of you. Alright, so today's video is part 4 of my makeup organization series. If you missed the first 3 parts, it's not important. You don't have to go in order. But part 1, I decluttered my eyeshadow collection. Part 2, I decluttered my lipstick collection. Part 3, I decluttered my highlighter collection. And today, part 4, is blushes and bronzers, but you could probably tell because I am very blushed today. I have overdone it on the blush. I was giving one blush one last try to see if I wanted to keep it, and spoiler alert, I'm not keeping it because it's a little too much for me. So if you like makeup organization videos, and if you are a fan of blush and bronzer like myself, then please do keep on watching. Let's start with bronzer, my smallest category. The bronzer I would like to start out talking about is from Wet n Wild. It is their Color Icon bronzer in the shade Palm Beach Ready. I was intrigued by this because I could see that it was a bit of a shimmery bronzer, which I hadn't tried before, so I thought this would be a good one to try. It's also at a very friendly price point, so I figured worth the risk. Definitely was worth the risk, but I'm not going to be keeping it because it's just too shimmery. It's basically a highlight. I have a deeper skin tone. This could be a really pretty highlight because it really does have like a beautiful sheen to it, but as bronzer, it's a little too sheeny. All right, the next bronzer I'm gonna talk about is from Colourpop. I do not remember the shade name because I bought the little holder for it separately. It doesn't say it on the back, it just comes in a pan, but I will look it up and insert the name right here. Obviously, it's very well loved, and I like this because of the tone of it. I kind of use this more of a contour more than a bronzer. I also think the contour is kind of just like a scam because anything can be a contour if you put it in the contours of your cheeks. But I like this one because it's not quite as warm toned as other bronzers that I've tried, but it definitely still has warmth to it, but it's a little more neutral, which I like because sometimes I find that if I get too carried away with my bronzer, it can look really orange on me. For some reason, my skin just pulls everything very, very orange. So I have to be very careful about the tone selection of my bronzers, and I think this one works really well for me. I really like this bronzer from Colourpop, and I'm gonna keep it. Moving on to my last bronzer. This one is my favorite. I probably wear it more than any of the others. I know there's only one other, but I wear this one the most. It is the Milk Matte Bronzer. I refrained from buying this for a long time because it is $40, which I think is crazy, but I don't think I will ever run out of this product because you get so much in it. You get 1 ounce of bronzer, which is a ton of bronzer. It's a cream product. By the way, speaking of tones, this is my favorite tone of bronzer I have ever used because it just, I don't know how to describe it, man. It's perfect. I know they have 2 different shades in this. I have the shade Baked. I forget what the other shade is called, but they do have a deeper tone in this. Is 2 shades enough? I don't think so. I particularly like the shade Baked because it's just, like I said with the Colourpop one, it's a nice, really neutral toned bronzer. I don't feel like it pulls orange on me. And the other thing I love about this is just how easy it is to blend out. I don't know how well me doing this on my hand is demonstrating its beautiful blend to you. I go in right with the stick and I just do a little and a boop, and I use a stippling brush to blend it out. I use like a little duo fiber, this one's from Colourpop. I use a little duo fiber stippling brush to blend it out in just circular motions, and it just blends really quickly and really easily, but it's really beautiful tone, really beautiful finish, really user-friendly. I love it so much. All right, moving on to my cream blushes. Like I was saying before, I prefer cream products because of my dry skin. I just think they look more natural. I think they look really pretty. I'm not wearing any cream products for blush today, and it shows because my blush is a lot. Alright, so my first cream blush is from Glossier. It is their Cloud Paint in the shade Dusk, and I really like this. The reason I decided to buy this, because this is $18, which is a little bit ridiculous to me, but in their defense, I have had it for over a year and I still have a ton of product. This appealed to me because I saw that a lot of people were saying they would use this shade Dusk as bronzer, which was cool for me because I was a lot less intimidated by blush than I was by bronzer for some reason. So that's why I bought this, and I do agree that I will sometimes use this as kind of like a one and done blush and bronzer just because the tone of it is really, really nice. It's a very nude toned blush, but it doesn't pull orange on me, because that can be another issue. I have another blush I'm gonna get to later that is a nude toned blush that pulls orange on me, whereas this one does not. It's like a peachy brown. I don't know, it's hard to describe. Maybe I'll put a little bit on my hand. I don't love the applicator. I think it's hard to not get too much product, but I also just tend to have a bit of a heavy hand, so maybe that's on me. But I just think the tone of this is so pretty. And this one is also, I know I said it's easy to squeeze out too much, but it's also hard to overdo this blush because it really does blend out very nicely, and it doesn't leave, I wouldn't call it matte, but it's definitely a satin finish. There's no real sheen to it, but you can tell there's some sort of dimension. Like when you shift it, you can see there's a little bit of a sheen. Like the light definitely catches it, but it's not matte by any means. It's a really beautiful color. Of course, I'm keeping it. The next cream blush I want to talk about is Stick Blush, and it is from Colourpop. It is their blush sticks in the shade Aloha. This is another really pretty nudie blush. This is more of a nudie pink blush, whereas I feel like the Glossier one is more of a true nude blush, kind of leaning peachy, but more nude, whereas this one's more of a nudie pink blush. I like nudie things. This is another one that just blends out really easily. It's super, super creamy. This is one that I'll also do as kind of a one and done. Sometimes if I don't feel like going in with a bronzer and a blush, I just use this one because of that nice nudie tone to it. I feel like it doesn't look so stark just on its own. The way I like to apply this, put it on my hand first, go in with my fingers, and then just boop, 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 boop. If you want, you can also use a stippling brush again. This is my favorite brush for blending out cream products. Any sort of Duo 5 or stippling brush really blends those out very nicely. Yeah, you could definitely apply this with your fingers, with sponge, apply it many different ways. I think it always looks beautiful. And my last cream blush is from Honest Beauty. It's in the shade Coral Peach, which, you know, I love my peachy blushes, you know I love my coral blushes, and the shade is absolutely beautiful. Goes on beautifully, applies really easily, go right in with your finger, just go directly onto your cheeks. It's a really beautiful color. There's a but, there's a big old but, because although this blush is really beautiful, I do find that this pan just gets kind of gross. Like, I don't know if you can see, there's dust in here, there's flecks of things in here, there's cat hairs in here. Maybe that's just always going to be a problem of mine because Bert's hairs are everywhere, but I don't love the idea of having it in a compact like this. I much prefer the Colourpop, or, I mean, my most preferred form of a cream blush is in a stick like this, just because I feel like it's the most sanitary. I can put a cap on it, keep it really clean, it doesn't get exposed to the air for too long. Whereas this one, I just feel like I get a lot of stuff in it. So, and I'm always so worried about bacteria getting in my products and making me break out. So maybe that's just me being neurotic thing. But I think what I'm gonna do is order a new one of these and just be really good about trying to keep it clean. Maybe I'll keep this in the bathroom. I'll keep this in the area where there's the least amount of cat hair. Yes, that's what I'm going to do. All right, the first powder blush I want to talk about is from Bare Minerals. It's from their Gen Nude collection in the shade Let's Go Nude. I was a big fan of this when I first got it because it was the first nude blush that I tried. I thought it was really cool to see a blush that wasn't super pink or peach or red or anything. So was a big fan of this when I first got it. It does blend really nicely. My only issue is now I do feel like it pulls a little too orange for me. I just never reach for this one anymore because I have things that are better. So I'm gonna be saying goodbye to this Bare Minerals blush. All right, moving on to a favorite powder blush of mine. I'm wearing it today. It's the Milani Luminoso, a cult favorite of many. This beautiful peachy pink shade has a beautiful shimmer in it, but doesn't make your cheeks look textured at all. It's just a really pretty, sheeny, not shimmery at all. There's no chunks of glitter in this whatsoever. It just gives the cheeks a nice sheen. I like to use it as a topper sometimes, so I'll go in with more of a matte blush, and then if I want to add a little dimension to my cheeks, I will just very lightly dip my brush in and use it as a cheek topper. Just gives your cheeks a little bit of a sheen. Everybody needs a little bit of glow in their cheeks, or maybe not everybody, but I really like that look. So of course I am going to be keeping this. All right, moving on to a blush that I am also wearing but am not enjoying very much. It's from Colourpop. It's from their Makeup Shayla Proceed with Caution collection, and it's in the shade Whistle While You Work. It's this really vibrant, bright pink color. I put this on today because I wanted to give it one last chance because it was sitting in my collection. I wasn't using it at all, but I was like, you know what? I don't have a lot that's in this shade. Like, I don't really have anything that is this shade. Why don't I give it a chance? There's a reason I don't have anything in this shade. It's because I hate the way it looks. I feel like my cheeks look so bright and unnatural right now. I took all of me to withhold from not just washing my face and starting over, but I simply don't have the time. But I'm not going to be keeping this shade. It's an incredibly pigmented formula. That may have been the other thing, but still, I tapped my brush a bunch of times, I rubbed it on my hand, took most of the product off, and I still feel like it showed up so pigmented on my cheeks. So if this is a look that you like, then maybe you want to pick up this blush. But for me, it's a little too much. I gotta stick with my nudes. All right, another blush from the same Makeup Shayla X Colourpop collection that I love is in the shade Construct. This is a beautiful blush. This is what this wanted to be but couldn't achieve. Because this Bare Minerals one pulls orange on me, whereas this one does not at all. This has such a beautiful mauve-y brown undertone. Like, there's definitely hints of pink in here. And if you look up close, you can see there's a little bit of shimmer to it, but there's no big chunky particles or anything. Like, on the cheeks, it just gives like a little bit of life. I feel like the shimmer doesn't really show up on the cheeks at all. It just makes the blush look a little more dimensional. And for being a powder, it doesn't draw any attention to texture on my skin, which I really like. It is also, like the other blush, very pigmented, but I feel like this one's a little more forgiving. I don't feel like I have to like tap, 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 tap like crazy, and I can blend this one out a little more. This is another blush that I like to use as both blush and bronzer because this does pull a little bronze on my skin tone, which I like. So of course, I have to keep this. All right, this is also from Colourpop. This is the Colourpop Super Shock Cheek in the shade Tease Cake. I am confused by this. I don't know if it's supposed to be a highlight. It's very pink to be a highlight, so I assumed it was a blush, but it's just so shiny. I did not think this would be as shiny as it is. I feel like this could do with being a little more opaque in the blushy tone of it and a little less shiny. This is probably my bad. It's probably supposed to be a highlight. I don't like the Super Shock formula as a highlight, but I also don't like it as a blush. I'm gonna be getting rid of it. I'm very sorry. Moving on to my last blush in the powder department. This one is a palette. It's from Ipsy. Did a collection with Betty Boop. I didn't know she was available to do collabs. Nobody told me. But yeah, Ipsy did a little palette with Betty Boop. They made a little blush palette and have one matte, one shimmery blush, and one blush that it's a pink highlight. I don't know why they would call it a blush, but unfortunately, just they're all too shimmery for me. I know they have that one matte one, but it's just not impressive enough of a shade for me to keep the whole palette. I'm just not very blown away by any of these. The bottom one is for sure a highlight. You should not put this on your cheeks. That would be a very icy blush color. And this one just doesn't compare to Luminoso at all. It's the same color and everything, but it just does not compare in texture. Definitely draws attention to dryness on your cheeks. So I don't even know if you can buy this on its own, but I would not recommend this Betty Boop X Ipsy collab. I do not like it. All right, we have reached the end of the video. I'm going to be getting rid of 5 blushes, although one is the Honest Beauty one, which I'm just gonna be replacing, and getting rid of 1 bronzer. And I'm going to be keeping 2 bronzers and keeping 4 blushes. I'd say that's pretty good. That's half and half for me. I hope that you enjoyed watching my blush and bronzer declutter. It's always very difficult to decide to part ways with things because I'm very nostalgic and I think about what was going on in my life when I purchased that blush. And although I was having a dang old great summer when I purchased this shimmery bronzer, sometimes you just gotta say, thanks for the memories, even though they weren't so good. It's Fall Out Boy. for all the FOB fans out there. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. That lets YouTube know to recommend it to other people who may enjoy similar types of videos. Oh, and make sure that you subscribe so that you can see the next part of my makeup organization series. I don't know what the next section is going to be, but my desk remains to be very messy, so obviously there is more to organize. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!